Welcome back to your favorite D2C podcast. This is actually a surprise for me. As Jess said, this is one of the most Robert things ever. I'm really good buddies with Jess. I thought we were just going to jam and grab ass and talk shop. And I get about 5 minutes in, and he's like, "What is going on?" And he sent me this outline, which was awesome, but it was very chaotic. And I was like, "What are we even talking about?" I was like, "Robbie, you booked a podcast." So here we are, people, with, like I said, one of my favorite humans, the best merch man out there, one of the best marketers I know. And I say this in the most gracious way. He's very deep in the data, but I think you get the human experience more than more marketers. I think there's human marketers and there's data marketers, and I think you span both of them, but you really are just empathetic, jobs to be done, really wonderful human. But welcome to the show, Jess
Thank
Bach.
you. Fun fact, I actually was, for 4 years, I was the creative director at a data analytics company. So
That's pretty good. Yeah. And also the infographic stuff, but
Yep.
we'll get into all that. Dude, thank you for coming on the show. This is like I said, one of my favorite humans to talk to. Your talk at Creative Palooza a couple of years ago, I still get messages about how good that was. But for people that don't know you and might just see you on the tweeters, which is a fantastic feed, you must follow it. Give people kind of the elevator pitch of Jess, how you got into this, because you just have such a wild story and your rise has been so crazy, and now you're just really playing with the big boys, and it's just so cool to see really awesome people succeed.
Yeah, so I've been a marketer ever since one of my buddies was like, "Hey, can you design concert posters for my shit band?" And so, like, since then, that was sort of the into graphic design, into marketing, into like infographics, where I was trying to tell stories based off data that I was seeing, and I sort of made a living out of doing that. Martha Stewart brought me on her show to talk about infographics and taxes and stuff, and so. Then I got into the agency side of things, or actually I did in-house at a place for a while. Then I got into the agency side of things, and particularly the like hyper boutique creative agency, win awards, make commercials type of thing. And so that was during, so I sort of ran the digital department there during the rise of Facebook ads. And all the clients were like, okay, commercials, fine. Let's also throw it on Facebook. And that was finally when we were getting some data on how these things actually worked. Because in my agency experience, the data on whether something worked or not is you make a great ad, you submit it for all these different awards, however many awards you win, and that's the determinant of a great ad. And the clients thought that way too. Like they also love to win awards or whatever.
Yes.
But finally I was like, hey, this actually sucked. People are not watching this, or they're dropping off after the first 3 seconds. And no one wanted to hear that at the agency. No one wanted to change their practice or do anything else. And so it got to a point where it's like, I'm so in love with the idea of actually performing for the client, not just like masturbating my ego or something. And so I had to leave. I had to leave and start my own thing. And I brought up 2 clever gals with us to do that. And we've grown into 8 or 9 people. So that's what we're doing. Primarily performance marketing. And it's kind of interesting because it's going a little bit full circle where a lot of the clients are coming to us now. They're like, oh, I can get that UGC shit anywhere. But like, I need like something creative now. Like the bar has been raised for sure. And so we're bringing a lot of those creative concepts and creative ideation and just creative where the ceiling should be, but bringing it into a performance marketing sense. And it's pretty interesting.
No, I love to see it. And you guys have been leaning a lot into, which hopefully the billings are going up, but some pretty high production shoots, which is pretty awesome. Because my whole thing with high production, it's fantastic, but I just watched Wolves. I don't know if you saw that yet. It's horrific with George Clooney and Brad Pitt. And the reason I bring that up is it was really well done. It was just terrible. And I think a lot of times those high production shoots don't have the essence that you've been able to capture. And then you wrap it in really nice production, which has been really cool to see. And then you were one of my favorite campaigns that you ran. I'm pretty sure we can talk about it. Was the Grillo's NFTs.
Yeah.
That was so awesome. So for people that don't know, Grillos are these just exquisite pickles. If you're a pickle person, they're fantastic. But I don't want to steal your thunder. Tell the people how you ideated on that, and then I thought the ideation, the strategy, and the execution were all 12s out of 10. I thought it was just spectacular, especially because this is. Let me paint the picture a little better. This was like peak NFT hype cycle. This was like
Yeah,
people
it
were
was actually
buying.
pre-peak, like
Oh, was
it peaked after. This was like the first wave where it was about like digital artists
oh.
before it turned into I'm gonna make 100 monkeys and
Yeah,
friggin'
penguin
scam all my
clubs and
friends. Yeah.
yep.
Um, so I've always been on the forefront of like new technology, and we'll get into AI in a little bit. But I did see NFTs coming in as for the digital artist, and this is sort of one of my favorite periods of time where there was a brief window, like because I've been a digital artist for a while, and those people. Like they don't get paid a lot, or they just make art or whatever. And
Yep.
there was a brief period of time where they actually started to mint these things on the blockchain
Yes.
and get absolutely paid from buying and selling these things. And then AI came in and just like removed all that because now AI can make all the digital art or whatever. So
Yes.
there's like this 6 month golden window for digital artists. But what we did for this pickle brand is we created all these different characters related to the pickles, and we minted them into the blockchain, and then we allowed people to like buy and sell those, and they actually competed in this like March Madness style
So cool.
bracket where you could like vote them up or whatever, and people were like sharing them. And so we wanted to like increase the value of the winning pickle NFT, and so we did that by creating this March Madness style thing where if you won like free pickles or something. But that was definitely before NFTs were a known scam. So
Love it. Yeah, for sure before. Yeah, you first wave I think is the best way to put it because they were
yeah,
in the zeitgeist, but it wasn't monkeys going for $1 billion and people doing rug pulls constantly.
right.
Um, you are running some pretty big accounts now. How do you balance kind of scaling in terms of like Biggie, right? More money, more problems, like more money, more expectations. How do you think of that in terms of it's challenging, right? I mean, I think it's better to be in that position than it is growth, but it's the fun the or not most fun. For me, the easiest place is getting on the rocket ship at the
Yeah.
inflection point. But once the rocket ship's exited the gravity well, then it's like, oh my gosh, how do I keep this money wheel turning?
Yeah. Well, I think there's a lot of misconceptions about sort of what it takes to run large accounts. And people think like, I'm deploying 10 ads a month and I'm at 100K. If I'm at 1 million a month, I need 100 ads a month or
Yes.
whatever. We have an account that spends 1 million a week that probably gets 50 ads a month. And like that is enough to
Exquisite.
sustain it. I think it's not necessarily mo money, more problems. It's like mo money, different problems, and
Very well said.
those different problems are ones that I actually like to attempt to solve and dig into, because a lot of times, like you can make a whole bunch of ads, but you need to have a very good sense of what part of the ad account is mapping to what stages in the funnel. And a lot of times those larger accounts, like the brand is fucked up. Like the brand
Yeah.
just doesn't make sense, doesn't stand for anything. And so none of that is carrying down to any other ads. And so you do need to make ads that are more brand forward, or go back and refigure the brand for what it should be at a 9-figure, which is different than when it should be at a, 8-figure brand or something like that. So,
No, I dude, I'm oh, zero notes, zero notes. I think of it analogous because my world has been B2B SaaS for the last few years. Just because you hire more salespeople doesn't like increase pipeline. You know what I
yeah.
mean? And the analogy is salespeople to ads, where it's like just because you're throwing more ads at it. I will say though, the best advice I've ever heard is do what the ad account likes, and I also think so. Um, I think there's different ways to win. And I think so. I used to always got to bring it back to me in my past successes. I used to be a really good runner, and there was this guy that I ran against in high school, and he had just horrible form. He basically called it pancake flipping, where you really
hmm
want to go forward and backwards, and he would kind of flip his wrist like that. He lost so much efficiency, but he was running like 417 miles in high school. And
Yeah.
so I think there's just some people that can run accounts certain ways that other people can't. And
Yeah,
I
it
don't
depends on
think
the
there's a
product.
wrong.
Like
Yeah, the
some
product.
products were built for ads and some
That's
weren't,
very
you
well
know.
said too. But okay,
But
you.
I will just quickly disagree that doing what the ad account likes, particularly 8 or 9 figure brands, because for example, like at a certain stage, you need to find new audiences that require new
Yes.
messages. Maybe it's like Hispanic women or something.
Agreed.
The ad account is, you start dumping that in there, the ad account is not going to like that.
It's very
But
well
what's
said.
and if you have like one CPA for the account, it's like these ads don't perform against the CPA, but they're actually probably better than the CPA of like the last ads put in there that actually aren't performing well, you know? And so it takes a really savvy media buyer to look at this thing holistically and be like, these are actually 10% above CPA, but you know, the last ads we put in are freaking terrible and
Yep.
you know, misperforming. So
That's very well said. It's very well said. Um, what are your thoughts on the Gartner hype cycle, big data, Web3? I mean, Web3 and the metaverse kind of,
well,
I mean, the metaverse is, in my opinion, just dead. Once Zuck kicked that to the curb, I mean, the stock has just been screaming since then. For people that aren't familiar, I guess bring them along. The Gartner hype cycle, you have some sort of technological trigger catalyst.
right.
You have peak of inflated inflations. Oh my God, this is going to solve world hunger. The trough of disillusionment, and then the slope of enlightenment, and then finally it plateaus. The plateau of productivity.
Right.
Where do you think we are in terms of AI creative in reference to the Gartner hype cycle?
Yeah, so it's super interesting because I've always been into emergent tech. In fact, the first chatbot that I became enamored with, this is going to date me, came out in 1991.
Wow.
Sound Blaster released this Dr. Spatzo AI therapist. They didn't even call it AI. It was like a therapist, but you could talk to it and kind of talk back. And I was like, this is a game changer. But you know, it would happen, you know, 40 years, 30 years later or whatever. But if you follow my tweets, you might get a sense that I'm like a bear on AI or a laggard or something. But I'm only a bear on AI because I use it relentlessly, and I'm desperately trying to find the ways to use it and generate business value. But a lot of times it's not panning out.
Yeah.
So. And it's real hard because AI actually is something that can be useful, unlike Web3 or the freaking metaverse or whatever, where it's like 90% garbage. There's so much within AI that is important to grab onto. But at the same time, expectations are even that much higher, and it's even more difficult to parse it. So related to the Gartner hype cycle, I do want to remind people that nothing escapes the Gartner hype cycle. Like there's nothing that like goes up infinitely or whatever. It all comes down to earth, and then a lot of things are dead, but the things that are useful rise up out of the ashes. And so like, I just want people to remember what it was like, the feelings during Web3 when everyone was like smart contracts, whatever.
Yes.
Everyone felt like this was the future, and the whole industry and the whole ecosystem bent to that particular will. And the same thing is happening. And then also remember, Web3 like doesn't even exist, or it's removed from everyone's bio, and it's like just like that. So
just like that.
That's happening and going to happen to AI, not to a different extent, but it's happening. You know, so just people need to be aware of that. You know.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think for me, where I actually get a lot of value because I'm trying to use it more and more, and I think the challenge with AI is that the prompter is almost as important, if not more important, than the actual model, what have you. And so it kind of becomes the rich get richer, where like the people that are really good at their jobs can just be really, really good at their jobs. But if you have no idea the questions to ask or what have you, then it doesn't do much. I will say one of the things that I really love about it is I have this like three brain guy that makes a ton of money doing like really esoteric, like Rust and like just super old stuff. Anyways, he has a bar, which I really loved, where it's like, I don't think the actual biggest advantage of AI is that it can write. I think it's because it can read. And so being able to take
Mm,
unstructured data sets and
yep.
structure them and schema them and then be able to perform analysis, I think is actually really, really meaningful. And then, candidly, when I write, like I self proclaimed, but I'm a pretty decent writer.
Yeah.
When I get to like 90 to 95%, and then I do some revisions in the AI, it usually comes back better. And so I
Yeah,
think it's
for
more of
sure.
a prompting issue, but that doesn't mean that like I think it's less like you still need to know basic arithmetic and then you can use a calculator. And I think people are
Yep.
jumping to using the calculator without actually knowing the fundamentals. And I don't know where that lands. I don't know if it's a good or a bad because I do like the democratization of things,
Hmm.
but
Well,
I don't know. What's your take?
yeah. So there's definitely there's more anxiety around AI than there is around Web3 because it is replacing people's jobs and everyone doesn't know if their job's going to be replaced. But I do want to remind people that AI, like every technology, has what I call a people problem. Like
Yes,
have you seen the movie Her?
of course. They
Right. So
tried to
at the end of like my
OpenAI tried
favorite
to
scene
buy
is
the voice, and she said no, and then they still went through with the voice.
right. So my favorite scene is at the end when AI is interacting with the other AI and they're becoming like hyper evolved to the point where they're just like, oh, see you later. Um,
Yes.
unfortunately, AI has to interact with us, these human fleshy bags, which don't evolve. And like to adopt a new technology, it just takes forever, especially when there's like new UIs involved or new ways of a whole different modalities of working and stuff. Um, and so it just like with Triple Whale or something where they introduced that lighthouse
Yeah.
thing. It's super cool. You could do a lot with it, but like, I'm sorry, it's just so hard to do a whole new way of technology and like it things move much slower than people think they will, even AI, you know.
Uh, Dude, obviously, I mean, full disclosure, I still have shares there. I'm still really good friends with Max and AJ. For people that don't know me, that was my first stint as a CMO. It was a really fun ride, but that was the challenge. And that was really what was in my brain of like, you're a top decile marketer. I'm a top decile marketer. And if I can't figure out the questions I want to ask, or if I, and so it becomes, so there's something called supply side innovation where
Hmm.
you just build things, but there's no demand. And so it's like,
Yeah.
you have to be really careful about that when you're building products and things of that nature, where just because you can build it and just because it's cool doesn't necessarily mean it's valuable. And I think that is one of the challenges is being able to again prompt like I mean I was just
Yeah.
looking, I can't think if it's Netflix or somebody, but they're literally hiring like quote unquote prompt engineers that are basically getting paid as much as the people writing the zeros and ones. And for people that don't know, engineers are like the like people use the term loosely, but when you use it in
Yeah.
like a proper tech org, engineers are like the king or queens of the castle. They are very, very brilliant people. So I think I don't know, I'm not, I think I have the same kind of temperature as you where I do think it's going to be transformative. I do think we're in a bubble. I do think right now a lot of the costs are also being subsidized. So back in the
Oh,
day, I'm old,
100%.
where it was like it
Yeah.
was economically irresponsible not to take
The
Uber because
yeah
they were just paying, like it wasn't market. They were just trying to
the
get market share. So I think that's going to be really interesting to see once the money dries up, how do businesses actually pay for this upside? Because that's the one thing about the internet was when you sell stuff on the internet, Jess makes an incredible infographic you can download and sell. There's no marginal cost. It's I can print
right.
as many of these for zero, where that's not true with AI. Like there's literal cost and it's not negligible like SMS is. You know what I mean? Like if you're
Right.
doing big pulls or if you're constantly prompting and stuff, you can get to like $5, $7 and then you extrapolate that. It starts to become like a
Yeah.
decent cost center. And
The
if you don't get that figured out, I think it gets into some really weird places.
Yeah, the and shitification of AI is coming down the pipe once
Yes.
these definitely need to be profitable. But one tool that I've used to help me understand, because I'm already sub to like 40 AI tools that all have like they're $10 a month to $100 a month. So one way of thinking is use like this metric of realized business value.
Ooh, I
when
love this.
evaluating these AI tools. And I'll give you an example where this absolutely plays out. So for when we were doing like the D2C show, I was paying a guy on Fiverr like $75 to make jingles for us, and they were pretty solid. As soon as Suno came out, I no longer paid that guy. Like his job was gone, you know. And we got jingles that were maybe 80%, sometimes 120% of what that guy was doing.
Really
And
good
so that
point.
is a realized business value. But to go to ChatGPT and being like, I can generate 10,000 headlines. That does not, you know, and it would actually cost me like a copywriter, like, you know, $15,000 to generate 10,000 headlines. And so just generating that creates $10,000 in value. It takes a lot of work to realize business value from a new tool.
Yes.
It is very difficult, and it's hard to measure. And if you feel like and the realized part is important because you can see all these new technologies and you can be like, oh, I could do this. Oh, I could
Yes.
create all these videos, or I could change my
Yes.
whole workflow. But until it happens, you have not created any value, and you've probably actually been distracted or diverted while other opportunities have passed you by. So as you're evaluating these tools, like you need to have created value, and it needs to be real value. And so the other problem with AI is like it is the most amazing technological party trick on earth. You can just
Yeah.
like blow people's mind, create a song, create a video or whatever,
Yes.
but those don't have business value,
Yes.
particularly in the D2C world right now. Like just because I can, you're creating like, oh, I can create a stock image and I don't have to pay for like Adobe stock, which was not even expensive to begin with. You
Yes.
know, so it's not really the panacea of I'm going to send all marketing costs to zero with AI, because that's just not happening. And it's probably not even possible.
Yeah. I mean, God, so many good points. Um, a couple other things that I find challenging about the AI is there's certain things that need to be 100%.
Mm,
And AI is not great for that. Perplexity, I found, is actually pretty good, much better than Chat GPT. So if I'm doing like podcast bios or researching people or doing like some research for an article or something, I find Perplexity to be much more. It doesn't hallucinate as much as Chat
yep.
GPT does. But you're absolutely right, and I think the biggest thing that I'm realizing, and I've already had this thesis, I think it's just more so exacerbated with AI. Taste is so rare and so valuable.
Mm.
And if you have taste, going back to that previous thing of like killers are just going to be better killers, and people that aren't killers are just going to like make crap. And
Right.
if you have great taste, because dude, I've made like whole marketing plans in AI, but if I gave that prompt to somebody, it wouldn't be the same outcome, if that makes sense, because it gives me this
Yeah.
kind of putty, this scaffolding that I can start to build on and do all that. But that's because I'm 39 years old and I've literally worked in marketing since I was 20. And
Right. Like the
again,
Rick Rubin
self-proclaimed.
of marketing, where you just be like, I like how that looks and we'll go with it. But like that level of taste is so valuable, you know?
So I mean, that's what made, for all his flaws as a human, that's what made Jobs so incredible. Like he wasn't the
Yeah.
technologist, that was Wozniak. He wasn't the design guy, that was Ive. He just had this ability. One, focus was huge, but his taste was just so exquisite. And I think that's my, or at least that's my like hope, or not hope. I guess what I'm trying to say is I think that one of the things that scares me, AI is the first time that because I'm like you a lot, Jess, where I love to just be on the bleeding edge and try shit, break shit. I had an MP3 player before it was cool, like all this stuff.
Yeah.
And when you remove scarcity from creativity, it gets weird, because
Mm,
that's what made the value of the creativity, was it was scarce. And so what I think is going to happen is there's going to be a huge pendulum swing back to, like, I think Etsy is going to fly. I think like actually getting
right.
something handmade that is one
Right.
of ones or one of tens that isn't like mass produced, I think is going to be really interesting, because um, especially for rich people, if everybody can have it and do it, they're going to find
Right.
something where
And
people can't.
yeah, there's places where AI is going to, you know, go up the slope of enlightenment, but Marketing is a little different because marketing is the art of standing out. It is not the art of replicating what's already there, unless you
Yes.
want to have par results or whatever. If you don't want to grow year over year, do what you're doing. But if you need to you do need to stand out to achieve those results. AI is pretty terrible at that unless you have the Rick Rubin to
Yes.
mold that into what they want.
Bingo.
The
That is way more eloquently put.
the other thing, particularly how it relates to ads, is like you could get an AI influencer and create an AI song, and like generally, like we make ads, they might cost like $300. The most you can save on an ad is the cost of the ad, like
Yes.
$300 or something. But a good ad, like we've made ads that have spent $1 million, and so like don't cap the upside of the ad on the creative side
Yeah.
because you think you're going to save $300 or 250 or whatever, and all of a sudden your ads are now mid. That's not that is not how marketing works.
No, 0% the path. I love that though, that idea of the realized business value, because you touched on it a little bit, but there's also a lot of one, opportunity cost, and two, focus costs. Because I think cost comes in three
Mm,
vectors. You basically have focus, you have literal costs, and then you have your bandwidth. So there's
yeah,
just all these three things that are happening with your team, and if your team is, it just gets into a place where it's not just the explicit expense. There's also cost to it, and I couldn't agree with you more. I will say, and I know we're a little bit hedged on this one, but what Jacob's doing is quasi interesting. What he's not AI, is
yeah,
quasi interesting. But to your point, it gets to a place of like, how much better does it need to be, or like, what am I getting out of it? I guess is what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
and so I think I don't know. The
So,
realized business value is still yet to be seen.
yeah.
But I think if that can mature fast enough, it can get to a pretty interesting place. But going back to your other point of marketing standing out, the challenge is you start to have the Waze effect. So if all this stuff is available
Mm,
to everybody, you just have a regression to the mean. And
yeah.
so it
Well,
kind of is a moot point anyway. So I don't know. So
so
I guess or go ahead.
So my take with AI is that it raises the floor but not the ceiling,
Ooh, I
and
love that.
there's so many marketers who are on the floor who kind of marketing is hard, and there's a lot of people
Very
that
hard.
don't know how to write a lot of copy, can't take a photograph, can't generate a business plan or something, and for them, and maybe Jacob's service or something, that can absolutely get them to the mean. But like once you're there, then what? How do you
Yes.
get above the mean? And there isn't a prompt to get above the mean and stand out,
No, super, super well said. Um, with all this shitting on AI, what are the tools? What are your favorites?
um, so I, so certainly I'll go through my stack a little bit. So I use ChatGPT
Yep.
for, I don't like write copy. I felt it's not good at writing marketing copy at the level that I need to be at.
Okay.
I'd much rather do it myself, but I will absolutely use it as a brainstorming
Yep.
partner.
Same.
Because it can, like brainstorming, you need something to bounce off of. You need other smart people or whatever, and you can bounce. You can have shit ideas, and like from that, it's like, oh, that use my actual brain to come up with something good. So I do
Yep.
that all the time. I'm like, what would be like a Disney princess version of this line or something, and it would generate something terrible, but there's something in there that can be
Yes.
adapted for sure.
Yep.
So, and we've also been using AI for, again, raising the floor in terms of product shots and
Yep.
product placement and UGC type things. It's very easy to do, and love doing that. We do a lot of Mid-Journey as
Midjourney
well.
is insane. Midjourney, that is actually pretty insane. The stuff that's coming out is like, man, dude, it is very indistinguishable from photos now. Like the finger
Yep.
problem is quasi getting solved, but outside of that, there's some photos that I guarantee have a Turing test of a 90 plus
Oh,
percent,
right.
99%. Like it's so good.
And so here's an interesting thought experiment because you can actually train, like everyone's looking for UGC content for their social feeds or something. If you already have like 200 photos of people posing with your stuff, you can train a model and you can generate new content that will look indistinguishable and fool people. And so on the one side, that's like, oh, wow, I can do that. I can save a lot of money doing that. And then people will like go down that path to save money. And now they're like, oh, I don't need to seed my product anymore, or I don't need to like work with influencers, or I don't need to interact with the community or something. And so they like cut off their knees of what actually matters, like seeding the product and getting it out there and talking to these people. Like the point is not to collect UGC. The point is to like, you know, learn about what's going on. And you can absolutely just walk on crutches with some of these AI tools, and people are going to do it to try and save a buck. So that's like an example of something like that to be weary of, I guess.
No, I love it. I think of it in the inverse as well, because so many people are trying to use AI to cut costs, where I'm trying to use AI to make me more value. And I think that's where real AI is going back to your realized business value. It's like, I don't really care about cutting my costs. Like I quasi do, but at the same time, like if I just make, like I had a great finance professor. He's like, there's two ways to be rich. One, be really good with your money, or two, just make a shit ton of money that doesn't matter. And I kind of
Right.
index on the latter of like, dude, if I can just generate all this value, it doesn't really matter. Like obviously you can't just be lighting $100 bills on fire, but that to me is more interesting than trying to penny pinch and, like you said, save $300 versus like, hey, look, I now built a way where we can plop in one idea. It gives us 3 to 5 scripts. We can go shoot these scripts. And then now we have 5 ads that are incredible, which would have taken us previously 1 week. And now it takes us half a week. So now we're actually realizing business value because we're getting the ads that we actually think are quality in half the time. So now I'm 2xing my output for the same cost structure. And so that's where it gets really interesting to me. But okay, so Perplexity, nothing. You don't use Perplexity? You don't like it?
Not really. I usually use ChatGPT for Perplexity type things. I don't do a lot of Googling these days.
Okay.
Anyways, but I'm big into video now, so I use Runway ML and
That
Kling.
stuff's getting bananas, dude.
Yeah, so it's getting to a point where you can generate a shot that is like amazing, indistinguishable, but at the same time, very hard to create character permanency.
Yes.
And so like there's all these and there's all these things that make it hard for me to generate business value, because I can't make a one scene ad with no cuts in it, you know?
Yeah.
And so like that's been very difficult. And so one thing that might scare you is like we'll look at something from an AI video that looks amazing and be like, oh my God, Hollywood's doomed, you know?
Yeah.
But see, what's happening is like, first of all, in terms of like the language model, 90% of high quality text has already been used for the training, and we're going to run out of high quality text next year.
Yes.
After that, we move into freaking forum posts and social media posts, and that will get us by for a few years. And then after that, they're like, oh, we can continue to train these models on synthetic data. Have you heard of
a big miss? Yeah, it's been a big miss. It's
right.
been terrible, actually.
Right. And so it's like, what if what we have, and you can all see this with the generations of the model, like ChatGPT 4.0 is not a million times better than 3.5. And sometimes it's even like worse in certain cases.
4.0 is worse than 4, candidly, in a lot of ways. It was weird.
Right. So we may have already squeezed that juice. And so we'll never get to a point where ChatGPT can write a book or write a script or write a whole script it may not get demonstrably better. And so it may not put all writers out of work. And it's the same thing with video, where it's currently going up the Gartner hype cycle, but there's so many freaking challenges that will make it very difficult to use. And we're going to run out of video content as well. And so it's not a slope that goes up forever. And we might actually be like turning the corner on a lot of that stuff.
Dude, I love that. God, I love you. You're such a fucking wonderful human.
Oh my gosh.
What else do I got for you? What are your predictions for the money months? Black Friday, Cyber Monday is coming up. How you feeling? What are you thinking? How are you preparing? It's a weird month, or it's a weird year. The Thanksgiving lands on a weird day this month.
Yeah,
It's a
it's end of the
weird calendar.
yeah. So like we've gone back and forth. Like we do like entire marketing planning for one brand, and like last year we were like Black Friday starts November 1st or whatever. Like it just kept getting earlier and earlier and earlier. Now we feel like that's probably not the move, and so we are doing it more traditional, trying to build up pent up demand and try and release it all at once. But yeah, it is, with the election, I feel like once that, I think people are going to be really pensive up until the election. And once
Yep.
people get the quote unquote result that they want, they might be much looser with their wallets and stuff like
Yep.
that. But in terms of like ads and stuff, we do it as everyone says, it's the evergreen stuff that works.
Yeah.
And it's really about, are you running offers that are qualified and have been tested earlier in the year as well? So
No notes. I couldn't agree with you more. And you had a pretty interesting trick that you used to use. I don't know if you still pull it out, and I apologize for giving up some of your keys to the kingdom. But you would use your last year's that had all the social proof and stuff like that, and just reignite your evergreens. And you say sometimes those just rip. So I think
yeah,
I'm with you. I think Black Friday,
the,
Cyber Monday is all about uncorking the demand that you had pent up. And I think it's
right.
the worst time
So
ever to experiment. This is just all about getting your money net out and catching as many of those beautiful butterflies as possible. Keep it simple, straightforward. Make sure the economics work for you. But this is the time to enjoy being a marketer and be stressed. It's not the summer where real marketers are made, in my opinion.
So we have brought back previous Black Friday sale ads. They do generate social proof. It can be challenging if the offer is not the same, 30 or
That's true.
40%.
Fair. Super
So
fair.
what we've been doing over the past 18 months is creating these evergreen sale ads where they're like, the messaging is like, there's a huge sale on or whatever. And anytime we run a sale as the brand, we just deploy these ads. And so they've been generating social proof over the last 18 months. And, they're going to pay off when they are the evergreen sale ads. They're not specific. We've removed all the specific things, but I do expect those ads to work the best this time.
God, you're just such a light in the darkness. Okay, last question. What is your equation of excellence? What do you think excellence is a function of?
Can you clarify what you might be looking for? Because I could take that on a lot of different places.
So excellence is definitely a little bit relative, but I would say for me, excellence is being. I don't want to bias your answer. Do you really need me to define excellence?
No.
Okay.
All right. So I think one of the things that I've learned growing an agency, and we're also the type of agency that we are small compared to other agencies.
Is the way to do it, man.
Intentional. Like I don't want to turn into an ad factory, because one of the things that you lose when you create an ad factory is you don't care anymore.
Yep.
You only care about the bottom line of the agency and not of the client.
Right.
And so I think to be excellent, it's not a matter of skill. Like, you have to genuinely care both about what you're doing and like the person you're working with, which is hard. And it's hard to get into a state in your career where you care about what, like, people work shit jobs and they have to do what they have to do, but you don't truly flourish until you know how to do what you want to do, and you really care about the result and the person working on the other side of the screen. And that goes like for clients, but also with the people that we work with. Like, I want to go to work with people that I care about all the time. I want to know people's faces, and I want to, have a good time with them. And as soon as I'm like, oh, who are you again? It's like the joy just comes out of my face. And then probably the skill comes out of my talent stack as well, because caring is putting in like 110%. You can't put in 110% for the paycheck. It does not last. It's not sustainable. And so if you're looking for 110% results, you need to find some alternate thing that matters. And so I wonder if you can like see how it's hard to gauge how much someone cares and use that. And we try to do like in interviews or something, but it's, yeah, I don't know. That'd be my answer.
That's beautiful. No, I have a quasi heuristic / bar where when you care about something, you don't need standards.
Mm.
And because you always just do your best, whether your best is good enough or not, that's a whole nother question. But when you're at your level and you know you have the capabilities, the effort comes because you care. And I think for me, effort and capability need to be matched. Like if you're not capable, like I can put all the effort in the world to play against LeBron James, and like I just don't have the capabilities to accomplish the task. But when you pair those two together and you have people that truly care, you don't need standards because it's going to be impeccable work. That's a beautiful answer. Very, very insightful. I love that.
Well, and then bringing that quickly back to AI, I think that's another trap because generating 10,000 headlines, generating all these, letting the machine do all of the work is going to rip the care out of my body, you know? And once that's gone,
that's exactly right.
You know, the results will go soon afterwards.
No, that's very, very well said. What a perfect place to wrap up. Jess, where can the people find you? How can they hire Fire Team? This time's yours, my friend.
Yeah, so at Hire Fire Team on Twitter is where I dump a lot of my thoughts. And our website, which people seem to love, is at fireteam.is. I don't know why we have an Icelandic domain name. The .com was taken, but that's where we're at.
I love it. And then can I talk about the crazy thing that you guys do, or you want to keep that on the low?
Yeah, let's surprise people. So yeah.
Okay. So go follow Jess. There's something really cool that he does at his company that is very, very inclusive.
Jess, wait, no, you can probably talk about that. I thought you were talking about something else.
So you have some team meetings that anybody can jump into. It's an open Zoom link, and it's absolutely absurd. I've had friends that don't know. I think I know you or whatever. Like, dude, I just jumped into this guy's fucking literal marketing meeting, and he was just chatting with me and hanging out and stuff. And I'm like, the guy's a maniac. You gotta love him. So if you have some time, go pick Jess's brain on his little Zoom calls. But it's a pretty unique thing that you do, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, just don't be weird. Because a lot of people,
if you're creepy or whatever,
people will click a button. They're like, I don't know what this, and all of a sudden they're staring at like you've interrupted a meeting, and you're like staring at 6 other people, and they're like the cat has like taken their voice, and they're just like, I don't know what I didn't believe this was real or whatever. But yeah,
exactly. Keep it classy, people. Keep it classy. All right, folks, that's another one in the books. If you want to go make funnels like you make ads, go to firmoutcommerce.com. You can book a demo right on the site. And then we have a fantastic newsletter that goes out every week, curated by the indomitable Alexa Kilroy, called The Equation of Excellence. You can sign up right on the website. And then definitely go give Jess a follow. One of my not only favorite humans, but fantastic Twitter feed, and definitely a little bit of shit posts, which is pretty much my whole feed. But you drop some really, really interesting bars, and I just think you're one of the most blue flame thinkers in the space. So, dude, thank you so much for the time. And thank you so much for reminding me we had a podcast today. This is incredible. See, you should.
We'll have to catch up some other time.
Get things on the calendar, get done. All right, folks, that's all we got. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.